Hello, my name is Tushar Singh, and in this video we are going to discuss second internal test paper of Iips-Davv, subject algorithm design and analysis. First question, and all these questions are multiple choice questions, so keep that in mind. What is an algorithm? There are four options given to us, and the correct answer is a set of instruction to perform a task. Explanation: an algorithm is a step-by-step procedure or a set of rules for solving a specific problem or completing a specific task. It is a high-level description of how to perform a computation, typically represented in a form of pseudocode or a flowchart. Algorithm can be implemented in various programming languages, but they are not programming language themselves. Algorithms are independent of any particular hardware component or devices used for data storage. They are conceptually and can be executed on different hardware platforms. Question number 2. Which notation is commonly used to represent the time complexity of an algorithm? The correct option is all of the above. The time complexity of an algorithm is commonly represented using big O notation, omega notation, and theta notation. Each notation provides different information about the growth or bounds of an algorithm's time complexity. Big O notation represents the upper bound or worst case scenario of an algorithm's time complexity. It describes the maximum amount of an algorithm takes to run a function of the input size n. Omega notation represents the lower bound or the best case of an algorithm, and theta notation represents both the upper bound and the lower bound of the algorithm times complexity. What is the purpose of analyzing algorithm? And the correct option is option B, optimize their performance. Analyzing algorithm serves the purpose of understanding and evaluating their performance characteristics such as time complexity and space complexity. By analyzing algorithm, we can determine how efficiently they can be solved and identify areas where optimization can be made. The process of analyzing algorithm involves estimating the amount of resources, time, and space required by an algorithm as a function of input size. Next question, which of the following is an example of dynamic programming problem? And the correct option is longest common subsequence. Dynamic programming is a technique used to solve optimization problem by breaking them down into overlapping subproblems and efficiently solving each subproblem only once. The longest common subsequence problem is a classic example of dynamic problem. It involves finding the longest subsequence that is common to or more sequences. The problem can be efficiently solved using DP by breaking it down into smaller subproblems and building up the solution iteratively. Question number 5. Which of the following is example of graph algorithm? The correct option is C. DFS is an example of graph algorithm. It is used to traverse or search a graph data structure. Next question. What is the time complexity of binary search? And the correct option is big O of log n. Binary search has a time complexity of big O of log n, where n represents the number of elements in the sorted array or the search space. Question number 7. What is the time complexity of merge sort? And the correct answer is big O of n log n. Merge sort has a time complexity of O n log n, where n represents the number of elements in the input array or the data being sorted. Next question, what is the time complexity of quicksort in worst case? And the correct option is O n square. In the worst case, the time complexity of quicksort is O n square, which represents the number of elements in the input array. Quicksort is divided and conquer algorithm that selects a pivot element and partitions the array around the pivot, recursively sorting the resulting array. Next question, which of the following is an example of a divide and conquer algorithm? The correct option is binary search. Binary search is indeed an example of divide and conquer algorithm. It follows divide and conquer paradigm by repeatedly dividing the search space in half until the target element is found or search space is exhausted. Next question, what is divide and conquer strategy? And the correct answer is breaking a problem down into smaller subproblems and solving each subproblem recursively. Question 11, which of the following is an example of greedy algorithm? And the correct answer is Huffman coding. Huffman coding is an example of greedy algorithm. Greedy algorithm make a locally optimal choice at each step with the aim of finding a global optimum. In case of Huffman coding, the algorithm assigns shorter code to more frequent characters and longer codes to less frequent character, resulting in an efficient variable length prefix code. 12. What is the time complexity of Huffman coding? And the correct answer is big O of n log n, where n represents the number of characters or symbol in input. This complexity arises from the construction of the Huffman tree and the subsequent generation of the variable length prefix code. Which of the following is an example of a dynamic programming problem? And the correct option is matrix chain multiplication. Matrix chain multiplication is an example of dynamic programming problem. Dynamic programming is a problem solving technique that involves breaking down a problem into smaller overlapping subproblems and solving them in a systematic manner. Matrix chain multiplication involves finding the most efficient way to multiply a sequence of matrices. It can be solved using dynamic programming by breaking down the problem into smaller subproblems and computing optimal solution for each subproblem and then combining them to obtain the optimal solution for the original problem. Question 14. What is the time complexity of breadth first search? And the correct option is big O of n, where n represents the number of vertices in the graph being traversed. In BFS, the algorithm visits all the vertices in the graph, exploring vertices in layers or levels from the starting vertex outward. It systematically visits all the vertices at each level before moving on to the next level. Question 15. Which of the following is an example of graph algorithm? The correct answer is breadth first search. BFS is an example of graph algorithm. It is used to traverse or search a graph data structure. BFS explores a graph by visiting vertices in layers or level starting from a given vertex and systematically visiting all its neighboring vertices before moving on to the next level. Next question. Which notation is commonly used to represent the space complexity of an algorithm? And the correct option is big O of 1. Big O of 1 space complexity indicates that the algorithm has a fixed amount of additional memory or space to perform its operation regardless of the input size. It implies that the algorithm does not require additional memory that grows with the input size. Next question. Which of the following is an example of divide and conquer algorithm? And the correct answer is minimum spanning tree. The construction of MST is an example of divide and conquer algorithm. The MST provides finding the tree that connects all vertices of a graph with the minimum total weight or cost. What is the time complexity of matrix chain multiplication? And the correct answer is big O of n cube. Matrix chain multiplication involves finding the most efficient way to multiply a sequence of matrices. The time complexity is determined by the number of scalar multiplications required to perform matrix multiplications. Next, which of the following is example of greedy algorithm? And the correct answer is minimum spanning tree. Greedy algorithm makes locally optimal choice at each step with the aim of finding global optimum. In case of MST, the algorithm selects edge with the minimum weight while ensuring that the graph remains connected without forming cycles. Next question. What is the time complexity of binary search in worst case? The correct answer is O big O of log n. Binary search is a divide and conquer algorithm that efficiently searches for a specific value in a sorted array by repeatedly dividing the search array space in half. In worst case, the binary search takes log n time because each comparison divides the search space in half. This means the algorithm can eliminate half of its remaining elements with each comparison, reducing the search space exponentially. Now we are going to discuss fill in the blanks. Dash is the process of finding the solution to a problem. Correct answer is iteration. Time complexity of algorithm is denoted by big O of n. Longest common subsequence is example of dynamic programming problem. And in the divide and conquer approach, a problem is divided into smaller subproblems and solved recursively. The Dijkstra algorithm finds the shortest path between two nodes in a graph. The depth first search algorithm is used to traverse a graph in a depth first search manner. The breadth first search algorithm is used to traverse a graph in a breadth first search manner. The time complexity of binary search is big O of log n. The time complexity of merge sort is O n log n. The time complexity of quick sort is in best case n log n, worst case O n square, and average case O n log n. In the binary search algorithm, the input sequence is divided into two parts and the search is continued in the part where the key may be found. Greedy algorithm is a type of algorithm that always selects the best possible choice at each step. Huffman coding is a coding technique used to compress data without losing any information. Minimum spanning tree is an algorithm that finds the minimum weight spanning tree of a graph. The time complexity of Huffman coding is O n log n. The time complexity of MST algorithm is log m log n. The time complexity of longest common subsequence is O m n. Time complexity of matrix chain multiplication is O n cube. The notation used to describe the upper bound of the running time of an algorithm is small o notation. The notation used to describe the lower bound of the running time of an algorithm is omega, small omega represented by w. Now match the columns. As you can see here, we have two columns containing some value, and here is the result. You can pause the video and see the result.